what do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo, presented as always by Pure Options Craft Cannabis. If you are scraping off your car for the 14th time, if you can't feel your fingers, whatever it might be, if you think Ben Johnson is Judas, whatever you need to get through this day, Pure Options is here for you. Go to pureoptions.com. You can download their app, join their Pure Perks loyalty program, and have your Pure Options experience tailored just to you. They have locations throughout Michigan. And our Thursday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. If you are looking to bet the football games this weekend, the Australian Open, where I've been, the Premier League, whatever it might be. I haven't been to Australia. I've just been betting the Australian Open. I'm saying download the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app, bet the games, enjoy the sign-up bonuses, the user-friendly interface, or just swing on down to Firekeepers on I-94 in Battle Creek. Go to Dacey's Taproom and Sportsbook. It's an unbelievable experience. Also, our Thursday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask and Company Kitchen and Bar. If you're looking for a place to post up, watch some games this weekend without the Lions, you need the beer to be able to stomach watching, the Commanders,
Cockburn.
the NFC Championship, which I no longer care about. Yeah, right, exactly. Front 43 and Cask and Company is here for you. Date night if you want to just miss it, but keep an eye on it. Whatever it might be, just a fantastic place. The OG of Couch and the Roo sponsors. Jason, how you doing, brother? I mean, I felt all of Fred Human, really good pianist.
Hey, buddy. How are you? I like that you don't want to watch it, but you want to keep an eye on it. Like, yeah. I know what you're saying, though.
Well,
I just don't know if I'm going to be able to watch that NFC Championship, but yeah. I'm going to try to be a good human being and, look past certain things like Ben Johnson taking the Bears job like an asshole.
You're not happy about that.
No, it's not. Like, I understand. I mean, it's $13 million as a head coaching job. I get that. But, people want to understand. By the way, I'm more angry at myself for believing Mike Florio and thinking that it was between the Raiders and the Lions. Like, it was more of me reflecting on myself and looking at myself in the mirror of thinking that actually it was between the Raiders and us is all. That's what I was more disappointed about. But I'm not going to lie. It's like having an ex-girlfriend and you see her on whatever social media site with a new boyfriend saying, this is where I wanted to be. I'm not going to be excited about it for him. Of course, in the division is kind of wild, but I get it's a business. It's just, like my friend Jordan said this morning, it's just weird how these guys move on so easily when we're so passionate about it, and that people are shocked by that. And people that take this narrative like, oh, people didn't want Ben Johnson. I mean, it's just a wild thing to see that your guy, as soon as that devastating loss happened, now both of our guys, Aaron Glenn went to the Jets today, and I'm happy for him. Good luck with that shit. But I mean, it's just wild that we're going to have to see him twice a year, and I'm ready to kick his ass. And it just watching him in the Bears facilities and talking to those people, it just annoyed me. I'm not going to lie to you, but I totally understand. I don't blame him for taking the job. It's just,
I mean, it was the only job to take given the quarterback situation. And given that, the other thing is he doesn't grow up a Lions fan like other Lions fans do. He worked for the organization for 3 years. Yeah. That's 3 years of his life. That's it.
I understand. But I felt like when he was talking, he was like us and was talking like us. So when you see that and hear that, you want to believe that. Like I said, my Lions fandom is delusional. Like when you hear me, when I make my picks and all that shit, it just all goes out the window. I'm going to try to get better next year and not listen to Mike effing Florio, for God's sake. But I was more disappointed by that than anything else, to be honest, myself.
I think that's fair.
I'm happy. I'm happy for Ben Johnson. Fucking out of here.
He does try to sound like Dan Campbell. Like you can hear the Dan Campbell in him a little bit.
I'm cutting him some slack on that too, but when you're around people for that long, you end up talking like them. Like I had a buddy, and we do talk the same way. So I don't want to bust his balls about that because the coach speak is more, it's really a hard job to have, right? Like,
and Dan Campbell's a great example to follow. There's nothing wrong with it. And look, I have a buddy that I worked with in Freeport, Illinois, that when he spoke, when he would tell stories, he would move his arm. People aren't watching, can't see this, but he'd move his arm in a certain way, and I started doing that. Look, I walk with my mother every day, not in this weather, but most days.
You let her go by herself in this weather.
In this weather, yeah, I just wrap her in a muskox and send her on her way. Yeah. But it's it's sort of like what's the Batman movie with Bane where you can be exiled and you just walk over the. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that to her. That sounds awful.
You talking about taking your mom out?
Fix that in post. Fix that in post. Sorry, that was the vision that came to my head. No, but we talk about this all the time. I am a bad storyteller in part because of my environment, which includes my mother's stories, which I have inherited, and I'm not just inherited, but I take from her all the time, and my wife who defeats my confidence. You talk like the people you are around, and again, so that
but again, how many different ways can you do the coach speak though? Like when you go into a facility, everybody's staring at you. It's like you have to come up with some kind of spiel, and it's like, so I don't want to bust his ball. I get that, but yeah, it's weird seeing him without a hat too.
Well, anyway. we are going to get into all this. We are going to with Nick Baumgardner here from The Athletic, who I really enjoy talking Lions with. We'll do that here in a second. We're also going to pick the games with Harry in a little while, and then we've got some great Groovy Donut Twitter questions coming up after that. So we'll get into all that here. Do you want to go ahead and give Nick a call? And while he is giving Nick a call, a reminder on Front 43 and Cask and Company. If you've never had their menu, I love it. It's like a modern American Asian menu. Like I love their pad thai, I love their Maui bowls, their sushi. I love their burgers. Just a really good variety, some healthy stuff, some stuff that's a little more comfort food. A great beer selection, just awesome vibe. Two distinct vibes, Front 43 and Cask and Company, and adjoining restaurants. One menu and beer selection. Now, our friend Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic, one of the great football minds of this generation. Nick, how you doing, man?
Good, Graham. What's going on, man?
Well, doing well. Just wanted to talk some Lions with you. I figured you'd have some thoughts. Yeah. And, it's when you finished watching the Commanders-Lions game last week, what was your first sort of takeaway?
The first thing was Jaden Daniels, honestly. Really was. Because I think that, and I was initially like, not worrisome, I guess is the wrong word, but like I knew in Detroit people would not overreact, they would react to the loss and the missed opportunity, which is a massive one. But honestly, as much as I'd watched, this game, Washington going into the week, I was like, Jaden Daniels has an opportunity here to really show people that this isn't a fluke, this isn't fake. And the other thing, I guess, that goes with that is my first reaction was, wow, they got by a guy who just played a historic rookie playoff game, and that's the NFL. That's life in this league. That happens to every team except for Mahomes for the most part. The Ravens have gone through this, the Bills, everybody else. I mean, it's one of those things that when they talk about you have to go through hard things in the NFL together to sort of get where you want to go. Like, this is what I feel like they mean. It's not just, hey, you got to go 3-13 once. Like, you got to get your guts ripped out, to see sometimes how it goes, and I feel like that's what this was, in a lot of ways, and sometimes that's just how it goes.
You and Colton Pouncey do an awesome podcast, Welcome to Detroit, available on Patreon. I would suggest anybody who likes the Lions subscribe, and it's worth it. And did you consider, it used to be called one of those, what was it, one of these years? Yeah. Did you consider going back to it after?
Well, we moved off Patreon. The Athletic, I think, still owns the name one of these years, so I don't think we could go back to that one. But that did feel a little appropriate, right? Where we used to say at the end of the season, this is not going to be one of these years, and this one certainly felt like it was supposed to be. But I feel like there was a little panic in that game. They got a little excited on offense, and then they just ran out of gas. And a guy on the other side just outplayed him, and I feel like that's what happened.
Do you take any? I mean, here's the Jared Goff is part of the future, right? You've paid him. He was really good. It's not like there's another option at quarterback.
Yeah.
When you leave a game like that, is there anything other than you just try to have you try to talk to him about not trying to do too much? You hope to have a healthier defense and just not have that game again. Is there anything going forward that game means? Do you think about a couple years down the road when things get a little more expensive that you need to have a plan in case this becomes an issue for Goff repeatedly in the playoffs?
So I think the biggest thing, and yeah, obviously for Goff, it becomes a conversation going forward a little bit too of like, this can't happen ever again, right? Like we can't ever see this. I think that goes without saying. We cannot have these games like this in these big spots. You can't panic about what the other side is doing. And like I said after the game pretty quickly, I thought the biggest problem offensively for these guys, and Ben Johnson was guilty of this too, and Dan Campbell, that number one, I almost wonder if they had too much time to prepare because they were trying to do way too much. And then number two, it was like I feel like they saw Jaden Daniels come out and just have no problem with their defense, and they told themselves, Goff, Johnson, Campbell being like, we got to go score 50 points, and we got to score like right now. Every time we touch the ball, it's got to be a threat. And that's not how they play. And, those things have happened a few times this year, and I think that is a big lesson for Campbell that he has to, learn, because it ultimately comes back on him. I feel like when they get into these situations when they're trying to do too much on offense, and they start the game with David Montgomery in instead of Gibbs. Like, what are we doing? Like, what's that about? Like he's trying to get some emotional lift. It's a playoff game. You don't need another emotional lift. And I feel like those are times where Dan and those guys try to do too much of that sort of thing. Aaron Glenn's guilty of this too. And I think we're at a time now where they need to let the roster help them out a little bit more. They need to put more faith sometimes in, we got guys out here that are going to get the job done, and let them go do it and not try to press and do extra. Because, honestly, Graham, if they just run the ball, they put Gibbs in the beginning of the game and hammer the football, I think they'd still be playing right now as well as Daniels played, because it wasn't, they put up 500 some yards, but that was not Lions football offensively. It was just not them. It was a bunch of talented players making plays, but that was not their offense.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, we saw that early in the year against Tampa when they had that game where they just didn't seem to be themselves, that they would have that happen in that moment. Do you believe, Brad Holmes does not really believe in windows or is trying to keep,
Right. Yeah.
I believe in windows.
I do too, to a degree. Yeah, I do too.
And so I do wonder with this team, like, I still think I don't know if there's other than a team with Patrick Mahomes as quarterback.
Right.
I don't know if there's anybody in the NFL that you would rather be for the next 2 seasons than the Detroit Lions with this roster, quarterback, head coach, and everything. But you're going to get to a point where it's Hutchinson, Gibbs, Laporta, Jameson Williams. Like there are a number of guys who are going to come up to almost together in the next couple of years, and you're going to have to make decisions, and that does affect like your ability. And maybe that's where if Goff has 2 more years like this, you're going cheap at quarterback after that. I don't know, but I do you believe that like these next 2 years they have as good a chance as anybody in the NFL, but after that it does get a little tricky?
Absolutely, and I think that's how they have to approach it. I think that's what we see essentially, I feel like, from Philly all the time, is that when they have a team and a roster that's got a shot and there's options or openings or guys come on the market sometimes that you're like, oh, maybe that would be good, that would probably really help. Philly does it. They go do it. Like when there's a chance for that to happen, like that's the thing that, people used to criticize in the early days of this rebuild. Like, why doesn't Holmes go do like what Howie Roseman does and pick up every kind of misfit toy who will fit that is unhappy losing somewhere that now wants to win? Like Darius Slay was a great example that helped them over there. They've had other options of that too. They don't, they can take chances a little bit more maybe on guys like a Jalen Carter, hoping their culture will, help it more too. I feel like they got to get more aggressive with all of that stuff, and they got to get more aggressive with adding talent on defense. Like they can never again be in a situation where, and I know it was a lot, is half the defense got hurt, and that's, kind of not going to happen again, you would hope. But they can't be in a situation ever again where like 2 guys go down and you're like, well, what the hell? What are we going to do? Like they have to have more depth on that side of the ball. The roster is still a little bit unbalanced in that way. And so I feel like if you're Holmes, you got to just attack that and leverage it and try to get the best guys in here as soon as possible to help that defense and give them as much, room for error as possible. Because you said it, Graham, I feel like 2 years with Goff is about all that we can reasonably ask for right now. And I think that's fair. But it's hard for me to go beyond that and say that we can reasonably say he's going to be what he was this year in 3 years. I think 2 years is fair. I think that's a long window for a lot of teams in the NFL, but that's realistic right now.
The coordinator positions. Obviously, you lose both of them, and people are not thrilled with Ben Johnson. A little bit of a went to the rival, but great best quarterback situation that was probably available to him, and so where else are you going to go? And then you lose Aaron Glenn to the Jets. So for the Lions, where do they go here? And do you have a level of, obviously Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn did a nice job. Do you have any concern about the next iteration of Lions offense and defense with new coordinators?
Yeah, defense, weirdly enough, as much as Aaron Glenn has gotten, flack from folks, and a lot of it, fair enough, is deserved at times. Defense, I do have, I really don't know what they're going to do there. My gut says, Kelvin Shepard, linebackers coach there on staff, who is highly thought of, alarm's going off, highly thought of in a lot of other areas, and I think Kelvin would have options to be a DC elsewhere if, Dan didn't want to do it. But that, that brings in the whole question of, I think that's a guy the defense would play for, they'd rally around and react well to. But is he ready to do that? He's a young guy, he hasn't done it yet, and that's kind of the risk you're running with these coordinators nowadays if you're not a defensive head coach, and Dan's an offensive sort of head coach. So in a weird way, I've been less concerned about them losing Ben Johnson because I feel like Campbell was as much a part of creating that offense as anybody, and no one really knows that. That's just not something he takes credit for. It's not something he talks about. I mean, he called plays, right, that first year with Goff, and that's the other part. Is when Ben built the offense and put it all in, he did it almost day to day with Jared Goff. So if you put Tanner Eggstrand or even a Mark Brunell, or I don't know about maybe even Hank Fraley, if you put one of those, a combination of maybe even two of those guys in top spots with Dan Campbell, I think the offense would be still very good. You'd have to overcome Ben Johnson was outstanding at nuance and communication and rapport and all that. There'd be some hiccups, but I think the offense would still have a chance to be very, very good. The defense is more of an open question. You got to get a guy that they'll play for. If you can't find that, then you've lost the battle, so to speak, in that sense. So that's the big one right there for me is what are they going to do on defense?
When you look at this weekend, does the run for the Commanders end? And what do you think happens in Buffalo, Kansas City?
My gut says the run for the Commanders ends because I think Philly is going to give them exactly what Detroit should have, which is run the ball down their throat and see what happens. But I don't really want to rule out something crazy there. Daniels already beat them once. It was in Washington, but he's got something. I mean, it's a very different calm about him. I compared it a little bit in ways he's obviously a very different player. They run different offenses and in different worlds in some ways. But he reminded me of a 24-year-old Tom Brady making the right decision time after time, not panicking, getting the offense going, and then just when you look up at the end of the day, it's a very good game. And then you flip it around the other side, and I want to say this is Buffalo's year. It certainly looks like it. But Kansas City's still here, and it's hard for me to totally rule them out. You know what I mean? I feel like Buffalo's still got enough spaz left in them to maybe screw this up. I don't want to see Philadelphia, Kansas City, but there's just this weird thing in the back of my head that's what we're going to see. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, with the Lions gone, Buffalo to me is the fun story, right? Yeah, right. It's the story that the tortured fan base that would, and I think would make it a little more enjoyable to watch. I honestly don't know if Lions fans are going to tune in this.
It'd be hard to watch
Sunday afternoon.
Because the opportunity is the missed opportunity is the one that never goes away, right? I think that's I think you said something on Twitter, right, about the John Elway years.
Yeah.
Right, and it's and that's such a great comparison, but it's also if you talk to the guys in the Broncos era, they'd be like, yeah, but we also missed that one in '96 or whatever, and it still kills us. It will always kill them. No matter what happens for the rest of the way, not getting it done this year, I think, is one of those things, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
Is it worse last year? I mean, last year they were closer in some ways. Last year or this year?
Jack Ebling asked that. That's a classic Ebling question.
It
right?
is. I know. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah.
He asked that right after the game in the media room, and I was like, what a question. I honestly, at the time, it felt like last year because, they were so close to the Super Bowl, but I sort of thought this was because the opportunity was just everybody knew it, and it was the whole thing of everybody getting hurt And when you step back now, you got to look at it as the missed opportunity with everything, and it really went off the rails weeks ago. Now we're just kind of catching up to it. And I think that's the hard part.
Nick, you're a beautiful man. And
yes,
your wisdom on football is greatly appreciated. Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic and from Welcome to Detroit with Colton Pouncey. Look forward to your draft coverage and catching up again soon, man.
Thanks, Graham. Take care.
The great Nick Baumgardner again from The Athletic. Any takeaways, Jason, from that conversation?
When they say, that's a Jack Ebling question that can go one or two. I mean, it can go both ways, because I'm not saying Jack doesn't ask
that was a good
questions
question
here and there,
actually.
But I definitely would say last year was more of a what if. That's a Super Bowl, right? But it was just, I guess it was the number one seed having a rookie quarterback coming in, thinking that your home field advantage would rattle a rookie quarterback, and it didn't. So it hurts even worse, I think, right? I know it's recency bias, but...
And I know in terms of matchups, too, I think what's also hard is, who knows, Philly and Detroit, that would have been interesting.
Right.
That, I think, given all the injuries, would have been an easier loss to stomach. If Philly just wound up being the better team, more complete team,
sure,
you could have looked at that, stepped away, and said, the injuries...
Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, I mean, yeah.
But I also I don't think Philly would have run away from them. They don't have as good a quarterback as the Commanders. And then if it does wind up being the Chiefs, we obviously saw the challenges the Bills present the Lions. But if it does wind up being the Chiefs, I also don't think that Chiefs offense is going to run away from the Lions, even though their defense is really good. So you wind up with matchups that I think would have given them a chance. I don't mean to make people feel worse about this whole thing.
I mean, it's too late.
Yeah,
it's pretty much. Yeah, that's why I thought Nick was where he was going when I saw you on Twitter, and I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Nick, that was the first time you saw that Yancey Thigpen fucking take? Or
I think the solace is in this. And windows might exist, as he says, but for 2 years, I mean, you can really look at it. For the next 2 years, I don't think there's a roster. And again, they don't have Mahomes. I mean, if you have Mahomes, that's a separate conversation. We get that. Yeah. Not in the same division. But I don't think there's a roster in the NFL, certainly not in the NFC, that I would rather have than the Detroit Lions situation for the next 2 years. And we've in our lives, Jason, we have not been able to say that. And so that's
coming off a 15-2 season as well.
That is pretty cool. We are going to take a quick break, come back, pick these games with the great Harry Gagnan, and then we will get into some of your questions a little later on MSU basketball, the Lions, Ben Johnson, all that good stuff. Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options, crafted cannabis. And if you are still listening to the show or you are been watching the Lions over the last week, I hope your relationship with Pure Options is in full bloom. Also, our Thursday afternoon show presented by our friends at Firekeepers Eye Casino and Sportsbook app and Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Shake both hands and make a stash.
Couch in the Rue, presented by Pure Options Craft Cannabis, and our Thursday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar and Firekeeper's Eye Casino and Sportsbook app. It is time now for the great Harry Gagnan from The Ringer, from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, from BetOnline.com, where he has a new video with the teasing the Royal Rumble. And if you like Harry and nudity, this is the video for you. You got to watch till the end, but it is fantastic. Harry in all his glory. Harry, how you doing, brother?
What's up, buddy? Who doesn't like nudity?
All of us.
Well, Harry and nudity. I like the separate. I like them separately. I will say, when combined, it does make me laugh.
You're talking to
Listen, you got wrestling, you got titles, and you got titties. What's wrong with that?
Hey, Harry, you're talking to the generation that watched a lot of scrambled porn, so we understand. We yearn for nudity.
Right there with you.
Yeah.
I know. Are you acting as like Harry's younger? He's like a
no. He knows. That's right. No, Harry.
Yeah, he's
Harry,
right in line with us.
In your life, was there a point where you didn't have Cinemax, but you had the scrambled version, and you're waiting for a side boob or something like that? Have you been there in life?
110% waiting for the parents to go to bed, so just I could flip it on, and it just you could hear it, and you would get maybe a second and a half
yes.
of what's going on, and then it gets scrambled again. But then just that second and a half was glorious.
It was so much better because people have porn addictions now. Back then you didn't, because you still left things to the imagination, right? It was a better.
I did have a porn addiction because I couldn't go buy it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it was better for people. It was better for people that way.
I could just go to a store and get a VHS like a normal person. So you're gonna watch a scrambled side tit. It's terrible.
Cinemax after dark, baby.
Oh man, it was
so many terrible B movies I watched, like an hour and a half of for some lesbian scene at the end.
You know what? I got a quick story. Can I tell you guys?
Absolutely.
The when I used to be a supervisor back in Vegas at Sunset Station before I went to the Red Rock, and a guy would come in and he would make some bets here and there a little bit, and I became friendly with him and stuff. Good guy, and his wife would come in once in a while, very pretty woman, and it was the night of Vince Young and when Texas beat USC in the national championship game, and I was staying after work, and I was watching the game there because I was done with work, and then he was there with his wife, and we started chatting while I'm watching that great game, and I told his wife, she looks very familiar. Turns out that him and his wife were like those soft-core porn actors and actresses doing those, BC flicks on Cinemax. They had been in a bunch, and they show me, and I'm like, that's where I knew her from. I knew they knew the wife.
Was that Emmanuel?
Watching Texas USC championship game and finding that out.
Now I want to know who they were. Was it Emmanuel in Paris? What was that? Those movies? Emmanuel in Paris?
Emmanuel in Bangkok, there's nothing better.
Actually, there is porn. Real porn. That's better than that.
Man, the sad thing is I know exactly the movie you're talking about. Okay.
Forget the pics. Let's just talk about softcore porn.
Our habits when we were 16 years old. Let's get into that.
Just 16?
Okay. All right. Well, it is
Is there football this weekend? I don't even know. Is there football? I don't even know.
In Michigan, there's an argument whether there are games on or not. Might as well move them to FS1.
Right.
People are struggling here. But it is to that sad point in the football season where there are only 3 games left. College is over, 3 pro games left. This week's NFC and AFC championship games in the Super Bowl. And I think one of the dangerous things people do at this time of year, and I've been guilty of this is from experience, is you feel like you've enjoyed betting the football and you've got a decent read on things. The lines do get tougher because there's only a couple games left and everybody knows these teams. And so you overdo it. You're like, I got 3 games left. You put way too much stuff on this because you don't feel like you know basketball well enough yet or anything else. So I would just urge people to be a little cautious. The best thing you can do is not lose money these next 2 weeks. But
thanks for the warning.
Sorry, I'm talking to myself here. But these are interesting games from a gambling perspective. Washington +6 at Philadelphia on Sunday at 3. It's a fairly big number for a division rivalry, and I understand that if Philadelphia does what Detroit probably should have and just runs the ball through them, they have a good chance to cover that. But I think the better quarterback, the healthier quarterback, is Jaden Daniels, and he's getting 6 points. And I'm going to take them for right now. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, well, where I'm at is not good right now, Harry. But I don't know if, like, I trust Philadelphia. I just don't know if Washington shot their whole wad going into Ford Field and winning that game. The thing stopping me, Harry, from hammering the Eagles here is Nick Sirianni. I just don't know if I trust him covering that kind of a spread. Maybe in a tease, the Eagles, right? But even with that being said, I just think the Commanders, great story, great run. But if Daniels goes in and does that in Philly too, then he's a legend forever, I guess. So I don't see that happening. I see the Eagles winning this game by 2 scores. What do you got here?
Good points, guys. Good points. But I'm gonna side with Graham here, guys. This Washington team, amazing what they, it seemed like they couldn't get stopped last week, by Detroit. I know Detroit, and maybe it was just. Sorry to all you Lions fans out there. The season come to a halt and it's over just like that. But I know they played probably their best game defensively. Detroit did against Minnesota there to win the division, and then just maybe they didn't have anything left in the tank with Washington's offense. And this Washington's offense, they still were third in the NFC in points scored. And I kind of agree with you, Graham. I'm not so sure that Jalen Hurts is 100%. Remember, he's coming in a couple of weeks coming off concussion protocol, and he only had 131 yards last week. 4 of his last 5 games. Forget 5 of his last 6 games, guys, he's gone for under 200 yards. But 4 of his last 5 games, under 132 yards. Thank God for Saquon Barkley. But I just think that overall, everybody is contributing on this Washington team. Brown, who's got 5 and 6 receptions in his 2 playoff games. He didn't have that many all season in any game. He's been fantastic. Ertz at 34 years old still puts forth a great effort. You can rely on him. And the running game is very good. Eckler, a veteran, I think he's healthy. I think he's going to have a big game. My prop on him is over 5.5 rushing attempts. He's at 14 so far in the 2 playoff games, and he's healthy. I hear what you're saying, Jay, and it could happen that way. Maybe this was it for Washington, but they just look too good offensively. I'm taking the 6.
All right. The other game is the game that I think we'll be able to stomach here, and we can all get behind the Bills.
Not Harry. He hates the Chiefs. He's conspiracy.
That's
guy.
What I'm saying. He can get behind, Reid, but he can get behind the Bills.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So the Bills are plus 1.5 right now. That's moved. It's been plus 2. It was plus 1 at one point. Right now it's 1.5. I think it's a really good teaser. I think if you can get the Bills up above 8.5, especially 7.5, I like it a fair bit. It's a hard game for me because we just haven't seen in the playoffs Buffalo win this matchup. But overall, the Josh Allen Mahomes matchups, it's pretty equal when you factor in the regular season. I think the Bills' offense is better and capable of dealing even with Kansas City's good defense. And I don't know. I just have a gut feeling that this is Buffalo's time. And I don't – that's not based on – obviously the history of this in the playoffs is it's Kansas City. I like Buffalo here. And
so what you're saying is it's based on nothing. You just want to root for the Bills.
Most of my life is based on nothing. But I do want to root for the Bills. Give me the Bills plus 1.5, plus 2 in a teaser, a couple different ways. Jason, where are you?
I got to say the Chiefs at home, only 2 points, Harry. But listen, I'm not. This is not the smart pick. This is more of a personal thing for me. I have a Josh Allen card, a PSA 10 Josh Allen rookie card. I'm looking to sell after this, so I'm looking for the Bills. At least if this terrible playoffs is going to bring anything, it's going to bring me some money with a Josh Allen selling this rookie card. So give me the Bills. What do you got?
Yeah, well, you guys know where I'm at. Me and cousin Sal, brother Brian, Parlay Kid. We are, if your local cable provider has it, FanDuel Television, we will be on Friday morning giving out our picks for the games. And you guys know that I'm going to be on Buffalo all over the place, every which way. Graham, I agree. Bills up to 7.5 on a teaser. My teaser is Bills up to 7.5, Philly, Washington to go over 41.5. Last time they met, 69 points were scored. So give me the over 41.5 in that game between Washington and Philly, and the Bills plus 7.5. Last time Bills lost by put it this way, the Bills in the last 38 games have lost by more than 7 points one time in the last 38 games. I don't think it's happening here. In fact, guys, I can give a bunch of numbers and stats and everything like that. I think it is Josh Allen and the Bills' time. Enough of the malarkey, enough of the crap with Kansas City. They looked like crap last week against Houston. They were very fortunate, as they usually are. And I know Taylor Swift is 17-3 straight up. The Chiefs are 17-3 straight up when she attends games. I don't care about any of that. This is going to be a disappointment to a lot of people because I'm telling you guys, the Bills not only win this game, and Sal's probably going to ridicule me and rip me to shreds, but I don't care. Bills in a blowout by 24.
Whoa! So alternate lines are in play. If you can,
37-13. No offense for KC. KC can't stop Allen. Josh Allen, it's his time.
I love it.
I don't think Sal's going to say a word about that. I think he's going to say good pick, Harry.
I don't think he is.
24.
That'd be he's
Dude,
never said that.
That'd be
In
great.
35 years.
All right, a couple things on our way out to sort of whet people's appetite. If you're looking to play something going in, I do like. This is Thursday night, starting 10:30 p.m. Australian Open semis. I like Zverev over Djokovic, plus 145. You can get on the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Djokovic to me is impressive as he's been. He said it after the quarterfinal against Alcaraz. He wishes it was a final. He's playing on 1.5 leg. I know he plays a little possum. I know Zverev has sometimes doesn't win the big points, but you're looking at a long match, I think, regardless. If you can find there are places that have like an over 2 hours and 8 minutes prop, if you can find something like that. But I think plus 145 has a little bit of value on the underdog here. I know it's Djokovic. I think Djokovic knows if he wins this, he's not going to beat Sinner. I think beating Alcaraz was the match for him, and that's where I'm at. And then I also like I like at home Liverpool minus 2.5 on this weekend against Ipswich as well. So those are my two little things. Jason, you awake there?
Yeah. What?
Okay, good.
I actually like tennis, but yeah.
I don't know. Graham, I kind of like the other way. I like Djokovic just because of how dominant he is on that type of surface. And he's won 10 Australian Opens. Yeah. And I think the way he beat Alcaraz, he kind of beat him pretty easy, which is amazing. I don't know. I just think that this guy is like, he doesn't seem to show signs of slowing down. I know, last year he was injured for a time, and then he had some issues about, playing in some tournaments because of whatever. But when he's on the court, he's just awesome. And you mentioned Zverev, it just a lot of times he gets to this point and he can't close.
Yep.
And I don't know. I find it very hard to go against Djokovic.
No, it is. It's probably the dumb bet. But it's me trying to find an angle. You want to be, you know what I mean? It's anyway. That's where I am tonight. And but maybe just sprinkle a little bit or don't. Again, I think this could be a long match.
Do we have an official time of when that's starting? By the way, do we have an official? I hate tennis because
10:30 Eastern time. So out in Arizona, it'll be 8:30 your time. Yeah, these games, the Alcaraz match being at 4:30 in the morning is just brutal. It's just brutal. I mean, it's some of these are really rough, but this one is not so late that you can't at least get a feel on it and watch it. Harry, we hope you have a beautiful weekend with the games and have your shirt off as much as possible, and we will talk to you before the Super Bowl for sure.
All right, everybody, enjoy the games. Wheat sodas on Jason.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. That is the great Harry Gagnan from Against All Odds, Cousin Sal, betonline.com, and, of course, The Ringer. And that was our What We're Betting segment in our picks presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. We will take a quick break. We come back. We'll dig into your Twitter questions on MSU basketball, Ben Johnson, and a lot of other good stuff. Couch in the Roof, presented by Pure Options, Precision Crafted Cannabis, and our friends at Front 43 and Cask & Company.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch and the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch and the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options Craft Cannabis, here for you this winter and for all show listeners. Go to pureoptions.com, download the app today, join their Pure Perks loyalty program, and have your Pure Options experience tailored just for you. And our Thursday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar and Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. It is time now for your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. By the way, Jason,
Yes,
Groovy Donuts is done it again. It's one of those weeks where there's a donut that I just can't get out of my head. It's
isn't that every week though?
I mean,
That's the bit, right?
it's pretty much.
Which one is this one?
This is the peanut butter. It's like a peanut butter and raspberry jam.
Yeah.
It's peanut butter icing, chopped peanuts. Yeah, just.
I was telling them I'm
drizzle.
allergic to peanuts and peanut butter, and I was willing to risk it all when I saw the picture. It was like, damn,
Yeah.
it looks so good. I mean, the smell of peanut butter and the allergy would definitely stop me, but damn.
Yeah, we're almost worth dying for. Yeah. It's that.
I'm gonna go out. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be that should be for peanut allergy people. That should be Groovy Donut slogan. Almost worth dying for. Because, but no, you can order that at groovydonuts.com. Swing on by either location, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. Are you ready to dig into these?
Yep. Steve up first. At the end of their MSU careers, who will have the best numbers, Matt Costello or Xavier Booker?
So it's easy to think that Xavier Booker has been underachieving. But do you remember Matt Costello early career?
Early career?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you stats or anything. No.
I'm going to read these stats to you.
All right.
Matt Costello, freshman year, 6 minutes a game, 1.5 points, 1 rebound. Sophomore year, which is where he played 14 minutes a game. So he's in the similar realm to Booker now.
Can I stop you real quick? Was
Yeah.
anyone saying Matt Costello was an NBA player, surefire?
No.
Okay.
No, that's fair. But I think there is the way guys finish their careers. There's sometimes sort of a longing, I mean, as a sophomore, he was 4 points and 2 rebounds. But, yeah, his junior year was like 7 points and 5 rebounds, and he wasn't very good in the post. It was like, I used to say, it's like a hot potato when you threw him the ball in the post. His senior year, though, it's 10.7 and 8.2, and I don't know if Booker gets to a senior year. He certainly has a higher ceiling in terms of NBA possibility. But in terms of who will have the better stats, I guess it depends where you look. I would argue that Booker's last year, if he stays at Michigan State at least one more year, his last year at Michigan State will be better than the junior year, certainly, of Costello. And the senior year, that's a good question because 8.2 rebounds is a lot, and I don't think he ever gets there.
T-Bone's dad next. Will MSU go undefeated at home this basketball season? If Firekeepers put out odds, I'd guess they'd set it at plus 250-ish and be giddy to sprinkle on it.
I think there's a chance. I mean, there are some
plus
tough,
250. I don't know.
It's
value there.
It's pretty short.
Yeah.
It's pretty short. When you look at their schedule here, I'm pulling this up right now. I don't need Hoff. I'm good to. Oh well, thank you.
Who doesn't need Hoff?
I need Hoff.
That's the whole show.
Yeah, sorry. I always need Hoff. Yeah, no, they do have tough games though at home. Like the advantage is you have them at home, but they have Oregon at home, Indiana on a given day, but I still think they'll win that. Purdue at home, Michigan at home, right? And Wisconsin at home. Those are all teams that are capable of beating you. And so my guess is, but plus 2, I would guess they don't. I would guess they lose somewhere. But I also think they'll win somewhere on the road that maybe isn't expected, be it Illinois, be it Michigan, whatever it might be. And I guess those are the two that wouldn't be somewhat expected.
Bibby next. Will any MSU players make an all-conference team?
Yeah, here's the thing. If they win the Big Ten, what comes with that is people reevaluating. Well, wait a second. You can't have the team that wins the Big Ten. If they were to win the Big Ten outright, they will have all-conference players. And I understand that it gets tricky. You got two guys at Rutgers are going to be top 5 picks who might be on a team that's going to be in the NIT, right? And they're averaging close to 20 a game. You have a freshman at Illinois who's going to be on a really good team. There are a lot of good players there. And Akins will be the guy who, if he's still averaging like 14 a game and he's been this sort of senior, consistent motor, defensive guy, he'll be a guy that will get on a team. Like Jaden Akins will be, third team All Big Ten or something like that for sure. And the question will be who else gets it. And I think Jeremy Fears is the guy who's getting a lot of recognition, and we're seeing that. And I think Jeremy Fears' assist totals and everything probably won't be first team, but I could see Jeremy Fears also being a second or third team guy. It could be that a Jace Richardson has a great finish and sort of plows through whatever people say he's hit a wall. I don't know if that's true, but it could be somebody else. But my guess is those two guys, Akins and Fears, are the ones that are on teams.
Josh Inwood next. If MSU wins the Big Ten 18 or finishes in first with a share of the Big Ten, or 18 as he's calling it, are they a lock on a number 2 seed? What does this team need to do to earn a 1, and is it possible?
Well, it's possible. You just need quality wins, right? You need so if they go to, they have the games ahead of them, the February ahead of them to get in the conversation for a 1 seed. There's no question about it. If you go to Illinois, if you go to Michigan and you win those games, you're going to start to get in that discussion. And those, if you go to Maryland and win that game on the road, like if you look at Ken Palm, there are 3 games they're predicted to lose right now. It's Illinois by 5, Michigan by 4, and Maryland by 1. And if they were to go to 2 of those places and win, they haven't played quite the schedule that they have in some years, or beaten the teams, and I think but I think if they were to, if they win the Big Ten outright and they have a win over Illinois, they get one of the wins over Michigan, if they beat Purdue at home even, I think you're going to wind up seeing them as a 2 seed.
Professor, why has MSG been such a house of horrors for MSU? Is it just the high-level opponents or something more?
Yeah, it's a combination. Like you can look at each circumstance. Some of it's like these are big games. Like you're playing a Sweet 16 opponent, in a 50-50 game. You're playing and that went to overtime. The UConn game against Shabazz Napier, who was on an incredible run, right? And they beat Virginia the game before that. The Michigan game, they didn't match up that year in the Big Ten tournament. Like if the Big Ten tournament had been at Madison Square Garden the next year, Michigan State probably wins it anyway. And so we look at things differently. But there are a couple examples where you didn't have, like you go back to that 2014 game against Georgetown that nobody wanted to be at, and I wrote the column today that you can read at lsj.com about sort of their horrors there. There's no building in the country where they've been worse. That's been worse to them. 4-17 all time, 2-10 in their last 12, 4-13 under Izzo. It is the worst. And some of that's you're playing better teams than your run-of-the-mill rivalry with a Big Ten foe. But the Georgetown game in 2014, nobody wanted to be at. There's a quote in that column by Matt Costello from that day just talking about looked around the locker room, everybody had dead eyes before the game. Like, nobody wanted to be there. They were missing Brandon Dawson and Adrian Payne. Keith Appling was playing through a wrist injury, and you had this unnatural non-conference game on Super Bowl Sunday that just didn't fit against a not great Georgetown team, and that set a tone, I think. And then the Rutgers game a couple years ago, where things have just tended to go bad. So I don't know if there's anything to it other than a lot of different circumstances that have added up.
Professor, next, if Ben Johnson calls tomorrow and says he wants to trade Goff for Caleb Williams straight up, would you do it?
Yes.
What in the 97-1 is going on here with this question? What do you mean?
Would you do it?
Why wouldn't you do it? He's a young quarterback that is athletic and can run. So, and everybody says Goff has 2 years left. So
when he's on a rookie contract too, Caleb Williams on a rookie contract for a while more, and you 100% go get because Caleb Williams.
Can he stop painting his fingernails though if he comes here?
The jury is still out on Caleb Williams, whereas it's not on
Column.
On Goff.
The jury is still out on Caleb Williams.
Well, you want that. You got a guy who potentially is a franchise guy still, and we don't know. Yeah. And I think you'd take a chance on that.
Thomas, how many conference losses will the Big Ten champs have?
I still think 16-4 is the number that pops into my head. And I know Michigan State, if they win at Rutgers, they'll have Minnesota at home. They have a really good chance to be 9-0 going into February, and with 11 games left, and 7-4 doesn't seem all that great. But to be honest, like USC and UCLA are playing a lot better of late. And USC just won at Nebraska last night. UCLA's figured some stuff out. I think still a top 31 in Ken Palm. Oregon at home, top 25 Ken Palm. Illinois on the road. Purdue at home, Michigan on the road and home, Maryland on the road. Like I still think if I had to pick a number, I think Michigan State gets to 16. And I think 16 gets you at least a share and probably wins it.
Thomas, I know Graham loves January, but can we compromise and praise spring? The sun is coming back, and the March Madness theme is flowing from the TV. I'm sick of my hands going numb while walking to work.
That's where Pure Options is here for you. You'll just be happy. And
why do you have to compromise with Couch? Just praise spring yourself. I mean,
well, no, it's fair.
Don't worry about Couch. He's going to do his same hacky 8 bits, and
that's all I got.
He's never going to praise spring, and
I like.
He's going to say he sweats in spring.
No, I love March. I love March Madness. I love those. I love the feel of when you get like those 50, 60-degree days in March, and you're still going to college basketball games, and the basketball is important because it's that warm in March. Like, that is a great feeling.
Did you laugh yesterday when you saw like a foot of snow in down south of Louisiana and down those guys down there? It's like the whole point of living down south, right? Is not have to deal with the snow.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? That's why Mad Dog moved down to Alabama.
Right. If you're gonna deal with that, you don't want to deal with the heat. Right. Yeah.
Like, what's the whole point now? You just deal with the weather that we have. David Cox, Cohen Carr is surging. He improves each game more than the opponents. His rise this February will help lead MSU to a natty. Why am I wrong?
Well, he's a big part of things because, again, I think athletically he separates them. The real question for Cohen Carr, like, they've got a team where a lot of guys play between like 12 and 24 minutes. And is Cohen Carr get himself to the point where matchup regardless, whether the other team is big, small, whatever, it's just hard not to have him on the floor. And I don't think he's quite there yet. He's been really good at times, and I think they're but that to me is because he is one of those guys that can raise MSU's ceiling and has potential to be a different player than he was last year, a month ago. Because I think he is a different player than he was even a month ago at the beginning of the year. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I think he's a key part of whatever they're able to do.
TK, who is more likely to take a jump offensively before the end of the year? Kohler, Fears, or Fiddler?
Kohler. And I'll tell you why. Because Fears has already taken the jump to me. Like, I think Fears has more in him to give, but Fears is really good right now most days. And maybe he starts hitting more threes and that's it. Fiddler has found some things. But I think Kohler, couple things. One, you still have a lot of shots that go in and out, right? If these start going in, and the big thing, and I keep saying this, is the three-point shot that he hits in practice, that he thinks at some point will just happen in a given game and he'll never look back. And if you think back to MSU teams that have had that stretch 4, stretch 5, and what it does to opponents, if all of a sudden that were to happen for Kohler, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think that he could be a 40% three-point shooter the back half of the Big Ten season, like that could happen. I think based on his form, based on what he does in practice, if something like that were to happen, it changes his game. It changes MSU significantly. To have your best rebounder also doing that, So I think of the guys still with a jump to take this particular season, I think of those three, he would be the one.
TK, will someone ask Izzo about how he pushed the idea that they needed a big wing as the most important offseason move, and we are now back to a 3-guard lineup?
Well, I think he's just reacting to what happened. I mean, they started Frankie Fiddler.
Don't coach my team.
Fiddler struggled, and they went to a 3-guard lineup, and it worked. It worked against North Carolina, and it's worked since. They haven't lost since they went to the 3-guard lineup. And I think the big wing of Fiddler and who Cohen Carr's become, and I think that was another thing they weren't sure they were is a big part of their versatility, is having some size on the wing. But they haven't lost. They haven't lost since they went to the 3-guard lineup. It's just, and they have 4 guards who need significant playing time, and so that helps that too. I just think until it, and like Rutgers will be interesting. Rutgers is a team with some size on the wing, and you do get matchups now where because, like, you'd love to put Jaden Akins on your best guard sometimes, but sometimes the other team has a sizable wing, and so he's got to deal with that because they're playing 3 guards, and even if that's a lesser player, you saw it against Illinois. I think you'll see it against Rutgers maybe. I do think, but yeah, they haven't lost. That would be the answer. But yeah, so I don't know what the question would be. Like, I still think it was an important thing, and this has just worked out.
Kaisa Kinga next. About once a game, Carson Cooper attempts a fairly high-skill offensive move. At least that often, probably more. His teammates throw him a really difficult pass. Am I crazy to think that means in practice he's doing some offensive things that inspire confidence in games, and at some point he may develop into more than just a rim runner on offense?
I think there's a chance because I do think he sees the floor decently. Like, if you always see him able to dribble out handoffs, like he understands within the flow. I think he sees the game okay. His hands they haven't been great at all times, but I don't think they're naturally awful. They're not Gavin Schilling hands. We remember Gavin Schilling hands. It was like just 2 rocks, and he was clattering them together and trying to catch the ball.
I think we forgot about him until you just brought it back up.
Sorry, yeah. I don't think they're quite like that. And he knows he needs to. I do think there's. I thought he would be better than he is now offensively, but defensively, he still gives him a fair bit. And if you're him and you're a junior, and there's a pretty good chance Zapala isn't back next year, would take you want to be the guy who then earns a lot of those. Now, obviously, McCullough, I think, will come into some of those minutes next year, but you want to be, taking some of those Zapala minutes. You want to be the guy who's they're considering starting next year, or at least playing a really big role. And I think his offense is a big part of that happening.
M. Anderson next. Despite similar records, what's up with the SEC holding half of men's top 10? Are they really that much better?
Yeah, I don't watch enough to know. That's obviously the ranks are pretty high. Now, if you just look at the SEC, for example, and this is Ken Palm, you've got Auburn at 2, Florida at 5, Tennessee at 6. It's like a football schedule here. Alabama at 8, and what was the next highest? Texas A&M at 15. That's Ken Palm. But Mississippi at 18. Like, it's a really good Kentucky at 19. Like a ton of, and so. I mean, and the thing is, when these teams start playing each other, they're not going to fall that far either once they've established themselves in the non-conference. So I don't know is the answer. I know that most of those fan bases don't care as much, and so they're not actually getting as much joy out of this as they would if it was the Big Ten, and that sucks. So it's not only snowing down there. They don't care about the greatest thing they have going for them right now, which is basketball. And you know what's just 3 months away? Oppressive heat, back sweat, and body odor. So, there's not a lot going for them really down there if you think about it.
Next one from M. Anderson. What are the thoughts for a midseason clash of the top 20? Example, 10 games, 1 weekend with matchups statistically stacked to recalibrate rankings. Let's go.
I don't like it because, I used to like the old bracket buster games in the mid-major because I did think it gave them an opportunity, but I don't like stepping out of conference play once you're in it. I think that's where your head is focused, your natural, and the other thing is it would drive too many narratives. because everything's so matchup dependent. You'd have years where, the Big Ten did so well, or the SEC did so well, or whatever, and that would drive a narrative that I don't know that would be 100% real or fair, nor is it necessary. I mean, it would be fun for a game, but I don't think it's unnatural to have non-conference games once conference season starts, and I don't think it's needed.
David Jackson, is Zappala going to apply for an additional year of eligibility? And why shouldn't he? There are football players on rosters for 7 years now.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't asked him about that. To be fair, I've checked in on it. I think it's something that is potentially there. And so I don't know where his, does he want to play another year of college basketball? Does he want to start an overseas career that I think will be pretty lucrative because, he is Polish, so he'll be a local. He's going to have a European passport. Like, he's going to be able to make a good good living. I'm not saying Zappala's not.
Like how much of a living? I'm talking like more than he's making now?
It's a good question. Yeah, I would. I don't know what he's making now, obviously, but
high six figures.
I think eventually. Yeah, I mean, you look at Erasm Lorbek, who at one point played at Michigan State in the early 2000s, and at one point was the highest paid player in Europe. It was like making like $8 million a year. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen for Zappala.
They get the return on their investment.
I don't know.
I mean, we say those numbers, but I'm just like, all right, is that true?
Well, yeah, it was on. Hold on. Give me some off.
I am the passenger, and I ride and I ride. I ride through the city's backside. I see the stars come out of the sky. Yeah, the bright in the hollow sky. It looks so good tonight.
I will. Anyway,
I stay under glass.
Absolutely. I mean, fucking everybody masturbates. Okay. God, this is moving real slow, and I don't know if it's my computer or this site.
I see the stars come out tonight. I see the bright and hollow sky over the city's ripped back sky.
So he made in 2012-13, I think he made $7.8 million, the equivalent of that.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, yeah, he did well for.
What are the prices of concessions for those games? I mean, like, I just don't understand. I mean, good for him, but you know what I mean? Like, why? I feel like you could get Lorbek for like, I don't know, $1 million, right? Like, why would you pay $8 million?
Yeah, so this is 12-13. So this is what what guys are making. So he was making 3 million euros net, $7.8 million NBA.
Let's get Matt Mancarini on this.
So Rudy Fernandez, who played, was the other top guy that year, and I don't think Jordan Farmar was making.
Jesus, Rudy Fernandez was making bank over there.
Yeah, a lot of guys. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of guys were making the equivalent.
What would they pay you? I mean, like $80,000,
something like that.
Just for fun, just to watch you throw bricks up and shit.
That was the plan. Yeah, all along.
Where's this money coming from here, David? Is it as simple as make threes and win, miss threes and lose? How else could Ohio State win at Purdue?
Sometimes, I mean, it's a make or miss game, right? And sometimes that's the thing about the 3-point shot that makes basketball different than football. And
are you saying it could go either way?
I'm saying it could go either way.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. No,
I hate those games.
I watched and I don't know what happened, but I watched a Penn State women's basketball team last night play Michigan State that I don't think could beat Michigan State if they played 100 times. I don't. Like, it was like Michigan State just clobbered them. And yet they had just beat an undefeated Ohio State team. Like, I don't know. I didn't see the game. I don't know the stats, but holy shit. Like, I don't know what, sometimes it is just that.
Scott, you, with MSU's three-point shooting struggles continuing, 30% in league play, what do you think the team's issues are with a three-point shot? Does the fact that most players get 10 to 23 minutes of playing time play a factor? Less minutes on the floor means less shot attempts per player per game.
I don't necessarily think so. Again, it can. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're not able to get in a rhythm, I don't think that's what's happening with Michigan State, though. And in fact, Izzo told a story the other day just about Holloman playing himself to exhaustion the other day. Like, guys are working while they're out there in their stretch. They understand that they have 4 minutes to do it, and actually in conference play, I believe they're shooting 34.4%. So they've been pretty good still in conference play. and really good in a lot of areas. But yeah, I don't think that's. I wouldn't think that's the issue. But in conference play, they're in the middle of the pack. They're 8th, so that hasn't really been as much an issue.
Scott, what's the ideal game time for weekend basketball games, and why don't we hear complaints from fans about mostly 12 p.m., 1:30 p.m. starts?
Because it's just not an all-day commitment in basketball the way football is. So whatever the game time is, you're committing to, and in the winter, the weather's going to be bad. So I think people like driving in daylight, so that's why they don't complain about the noon and the 1. There's not tailgating.
But what time would you want? I think 1:30, like on a Saturday, it's a nice kind of groove. You get, your morning going, yep. 1:30, you watch the game, and then you can do your evening. Yeah, I think that's kind of a perfect for a Saturday in January.
Noon is a little too early. I mean, it's not awful, but it's a little too early.
I can agree with that.
And, especially for me, they play at 1:30, Michigan State does on Saturday at the Garden. Well, I've got soccer games to watch at 10. So if that game's at noon, that sucks. 1:30, I can watch all the games, jump in the shower, walk over to the Garden. It's,
You mean you're not crushing tape for Michigan State, before the game or anything? You're watching soccer?
Not during Newcastle, Southampton.
It's unbelievable. Ken Chu, why do people think one go-to player is better than 5 or 6? Who says that, Ken?
Yeah, well, there are times where, because,
Just one?
Yeah, and 5, if you have go-to players, is better. The argument sometimes is if you have the best 10, but other people have a better 5 than you, that's a problem. And it's the same thing. If you have one guy you can't stop, but you have 5 guys that sometimes are pretty good, you'd rather have the one guy you can't stop. It really depends on the level of the 5. And the thing that's allowed Michigan State to continue to win is the 5 that they have on the floor. Not always the same 5, but they've been able to put 5s that are able to counter matchups. They've always had enough guys going because the old adage, you got to have 3 guys rolling to get anywhere in college basketball. And Michigan State pretty much always does because they have enough different types of players. Somebody on a given day is going to be doing it, and you've learned to trust that. But I still think if you had one elite player, the great question would be this. Would you rather have Cassius Winston, 2019 Spartans, or this team, or Denzel Valentine, 2016 Spartans? Because this team collectively is significantly better than those teams. I believe deeper and just better.
Denzel was fun,
5 through 8. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that the argument of a guy has a triple double, walking triple double is
it's fun to watch that dude,
and he makes everybody around you better. It's you can go either way.
Ken Chu, would Ohio State have won the Natty if they hadn't lost to Michigan? Have you heard from one Ohio State fan that said that they would rather beat Michigan than win a Natty? Have you met one? Have you seen one, like a legitimate one?
I don't think it's rather at this point, but I do think that this season will always be, even though they won it, tainted.
I got to say,
that.
I can't stop thinking about how they lost to Michigan, though. I couldn't stop their whole run, right? I just saw every week after, I was like, how did they lose to this Michigan team, though? Well, right? I know that Michigan beat Alabama in the bowl game, but at the time, it was prime at the Horseshoe. It's just wild. I'll never stop thinking about that sometimes.
And if you think about, Michigan just won it last year. So if your world revolves around bragging rights over your rival, and you're Ohio State, you've lost 4 straight. You did win a national title, but even that doesn't you can't. What is that like?
You bought it. Everybody's saying you bought it or whatever.
Well,
but everybody's doing that.
People says Michigan cheated for you. Whatever. It's fine. Yeah. Right. The point is, you can't say to Michigan, "Look, we won a national title." Though they're like, "Yeah, we won one last year." You don't even have. I think that's what bothers me. If Michigan had not won a title, and this was something Michigan hadn't just done, but it's.
I just think national title over anything is just what you're doing. It's what you're supposed to go out and do. I would rather have that, obviously, than any win against a certain individual rival. It's wild.
To the question, because it's a good question, and the answer is I don't know. I do think it helped refocus them, and I do think they played a game that was not their game. It was sort of like the Lions' offense, and screwing it up this week, and they learned lessons in that. Now, whether they would have won it anyway, I don't know, but I do think it helped them losing to Michigan in the playoff.
Chris Eastlick, next. Are people actually not watching the college football championship because it's NFL playoffs? As soon as the semifinals were over, I did the normal thing and checked the ESPN app for the time, and it was a Monday with no other game on. Klatt is crying just to cry.
Well, the ratings were down, and some people say inauguration coverage. I think it is late. It is late in the year.
This shit's all day long. How much inauguration coverage do you need to see?
I think it does get out of the because if your team finished its season like 2 months ago, you really haven't been thinking, and then the playoffs get going, but there's fewer games. It's like I do think.
Well, when do they want it on? Like a Friday night?
Well, I think you just have it a week earlier. I think the problem is it just goes too late. And even like I would always watch the college football championship, but I have made this mistake even before now when it was even a little bit earlier, where I remember a couple years ago I missed a game because I scheduled something else for Monday night, January 9th or whatever. I didn't think I had anything on Monday night, January 9th, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's the college football national championship. We're still doing that?
So isn't that good to give the two teams, though, a time to rest a little bit after doing the college football playoff and playing those games?
Here's what's going to happen.
I just don't think I thought it was great to have it on a Monday after those games.
Within 5 years, every season will start week 0, start a week earlier, and we'll see about the conference championship games. But the semifinals will be on the around New Year's Day, and then January 8th around that time will be the championship game. That's what's coming down the pike. I can promise you that. This will be a short-term thing being this late.
Some dude next couch, you said that you'd get rid of the 1-and-1s in men's college basketball. Doesn't that take away a pretty cool and unique comeback strategy that no other sport has? It's not exciting, but it can work at times and change games.
Maybe. It'll be interesting to see. Like the women's game has gotten rid of them. So they go to quarters, and I don't know that it's affected. It would be interesting to ask coaches on the women's side who were around before the change how it's affected strategy. And it's a good question.
Andrew Zuiza, how could you have hated the term him as much as you did while actively using bumpity bump? Him is bad, but bumpity is worse. It really is. Because a him it's like a young person thing, so you can kind of look past that. But bumpity bump from your favorite sports writer is just, ugh.
Yeah.
Especially during a Lions loss. I mean, my God, this guy.
There were just too many former MSU quarterbacks that were him to people, I think, that drove me nuts. That's I think, and
I just don't like young people.
I don't like terms that. I don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like it. I don't know how to.
He's looking in a mirror right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Scotty Green's El Camino with Izzo proving again that he's one of the all-time premier coaches in college basketball. How close was he really to getting fired after the first couple of years as head coach?
Not as close, I don't think, as he makes it out to be in terms of like what would have been interesting is so they're struggling in his third year, right? And this is the year they go on to win a Big Ten title. They lose to Temple. They lost to Detroit for the third straight year. And, it's just Izzo was, people were unhappy. And Izzo wasn't Izzo. There was no clout or there's no reason to believe in him. He'd just been an assistant for a good coach and Heathcote, but Heathcote had his warts in terms of the amount of winning. And like I want you to think of yourself as an MSU fan in 97, 98. You've been to 2 straight NITs, gotten a loss in the second round of those with Michigan State. It's year 3 under Izzo. Cleaves was supposed to be this big deal guy. The Flintstones are supposed to be this big deal guy. Cleaves is a sophomore. And you've lost already to Illinois, Chicago on the road by 12, Temple at home by 2, and Detroit at home by 3. And it's like getting close to Christmas. Like, you understand, they were 5-3. I understand why people were surly. If that year had wound up in the NIT, I do not think he's fired that year. But I do think 98, 99 would have been like pressure, has to get to the tournament, has to do things. So I don't think he was like, that close to being fired after year 3, and I don't think they would have fired him in season. But if year 3 had not wound up being in a Big Ten title or not wound up being an NCAA tournament team, and it didn't look like it was early on, and I still remember sitting next to my dad and watching that Temple game, and David Thomas missed 2 free throws, and him saying I don't know if it's going to happen for Izzo, and he was an optimist. So it was close. There was a lot of doubt. I don't think he was I think he had another half season, a year and a half to probably get it done, but I think there was a lot of doubt.
Scotty Green's El Camino, what's more impressive, Izzo's 8 Final Fours or the 26-year NCAA tourney streak? I'd say the streak, the tourney, the 26 years.
Yeah, and I know the streak has frustrated people lately because that's been all there is when they haven't been as good. But the streak, the consistency.
But it's great to have when you have nothing, though.
Correct. And the consistency of that is incredible.
Right.
It really is. When that's your floor, and now he has raised MSU to levels and a profile through the Final Fours.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The Final Fours is pretty ridiculous too. When you would think, like you mentioned the other day, about every senior would play in a Final Four if you stayed 4 years, right?
Which he hasn't had that entirely, but yes, he's had a couple long stretches of that.
It's pretty crazy.
The argument would be like if you took one away. So say they had made the NCAA tournament 21 times in 26 years, but they had been to 8 Final Fours. That would be better than 0 Final Fours and a 26-year tournament streak. So like, you could argue it's the Final Fours just based on if you had to lose one or the other, but it's a good question.
Spartan 18770. Does MSU have a quality backup quarterback for next season?
Well, they had 2 freshmen on the roster, but it's a good question. I don't know what quality is. I think they have guys they're developing that they hope are good enough to, and then you hope Aiden Childs is healthy. But that's a good question. I don't think we don't know that.
Spartan, does MSU Treese? What is
we missed one more. One of Spartan. It was a different position.
Oh shit! Does MSU have a quality kicker for next season?
Absolutely not. Totally screwed. No, I don't. Again, these are positions that have to be proven a lot of times. Like nobody thought Kim was going to be a good kicker for Michigan State based on what he'd been as a kickoff specialist elsewhere, and he wound up being fantastic. And so they've had a great run on this for sure.
All right, now Treese, what is the appropriate chat time when you see someone you know at the store? Does it matter the store? I feel like Costco is 30 seconds.
So if you see somebody...
Usually I don't have to worry about it because I've burned so many bridges that I usually, if I see someone I know or I recognize, I go, they probably don't want to talk to me. So I just ignore them.
Do people give you dirty looks a lot when you run them?
No, because I don't look that long. I don't care to stare at them and go, are they looking at It's mostly, you know what I mean? Like you see someone like, oh, I'm good with faces, so I recognize them. So I don't know, maybe, what else would you talk about for 30 seconds? Right? If it's just a general acquaintance or something.
I remember running into Matt Mancarini at a Meijer.
And you guys hugged in 69 in aisle 3.
I got home 5 hours later, so I don't know.
Yeah, but he's like a friend that comes over. I'm talking about like an acquaintance or someone like you went to high school or something like that, right?
Right. No.
Because I think what she's talking about is she saw Dominic coming into Costco and she saw him. You're like, what is the protocol or something like that?
Did she say anything to him?
Yeah, she said hi, but it's like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like do you sit there and have to go over and say something and have a little like, oh, this weather, am I right? Like you got to do or you can just go, hey, man, I think head out or something. I don't know. I'm just terrible at that stuff anyway.
Yeah, and I think you can create it with your, like, if you're in a hurry somewhere you're doing or you don't want to and you just keep walking but give a friendly hello,
hey, man.
That's fine too. Correct. Yeah. I think if you stop, you could wind up in a 5-minute conversation.
And then someone's like, Graham Couch looked right through me. It's unbelievable. I hate that guy now.
You know what's really close to Costco? Groovy Donuts. Absolutely. So if you're at Costco in the morning, yeah. 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you're at Costco in the morning, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Groovy Donuts is open Thursday through Sunday. That's on that. I'm talking about the Lake Lansing store, very close to Costco in East Lansing, and also of course the Williamston. And bring a little joy to your life, And we've said it before. If you want people to like you, and you're not the most likable person, Groovy Donuts will really help. You are bringing joy to people's life. I
can tell you that for I'm a good example. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Show up at work. Show up at a party. If you bring Groovy Donuts, people will be glad you came, even if they usually aren't. Again, groovydonuts.com to place your orders today.
The ladies at the post office in Ovid love me now.
There you go.
Groovy Donuts. Mark, next. Why are Blue Sky takes at the end of the show? Are you asking me to go back to the Nazi site?
They're not. First of all, you're not at the end of the show or even close to it.
Yeah, my wife's was just right above yours. So
yeah, you're good. And there are lots of them get sprinkled
no conspiracy.
in. Yeah, there's nothing.
You think Couch is the one that puts these together? I think Blue Sky would be up first. Yeah, that's the case. Yeah, thanks, Elon. Oasis Dog 97 over under 1.5 big noon games for MSU football next season. Not just noon games, but games specifically placed on Fox as part of the Big Noon Saturday.
Boy, they didn't have a single game at noon this year, and now we're talking big noon. And I know there was some flack about that. I would take the under for actual big noon games, because I guess if they win a lot in I would take the under. Take the under.
Shep, next. I bet on the Pistons to make the play-in about 6 weeks ago at plus 230. Excuse me. God, I'm dying. If they make the playoffs but are a higher seed and thus avoid the play-in, does my bet cash or not?
No. If they make the play-in and then win, so if you make a playoffs bet, and you have to look at the language. I guess there could be a book that says at least the play-in, but to me, the play-in's the play-in. My guess is you're going to be good there. I think they're going to wind up 7 or 8, as low as 9, but between 7 and 9. But yeah, I guess they're playing well enough right now that there's an argument there. But if you have a playoff bet, by the way, and they make the play, and they do have to win into the actual top 8 in the playoffs to get in there. That's a good bet. I have some Pistons futures that are going to pay nicely at the end of the year as well.
Jebediah, what's more irrational? Thinking Ben Johnson is a traitor for leaving to become a head coach while making more money, or being happy he's gone because of how unprepared and awful he was for his last game as OC?
Yeah, I get I don't get the hatred for him. I get that he went to a rival.
I get it. I hate him now. I can't wait to kick his ass. He's on the Bears now.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
But you should also appreciate what he did for you, right?
What did he do?
Did
we win a Super Bowl?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, dude. It was fantastic, and his play calling at times was unbelievable and fun to watch. But he didn't win us a Super Bowl. We didn't go to a Super Bowl. So his excitement for the Bears and all that shit, it just makes me.
So here's a question:
dislike him.
They win a Super Bowl this year. If that had happened, and then he had taken the Bears job,
Ben,
you'd feel differently about it,
dude. Print that paper for Ben.
Yeah, okay.
I'll be excited, dude. I'm telling you, if we win a Super Bowl, I'm telling you, everything will be elevated, right? It's just that, it's just the way we lost and everything, and coupled with the NFC Championship game last year, and just I don't know. Yeah, I don't blame him I don't know anyone that blames him for taking that money or the job.
Okay.
It's just shocking that he would go to a division rival. Jebediah, is anyone else happy that the game is now basically fucking useless? Imagine upsetting your rival and having zero impact on that team's season whatsoever. Shove that elitism up your tight booty holes.
Well, that's going to be a lot of. I have mixed feelings about this because I do like when that game has everything at stake, but I also love the expanded playoff, and I love that. I love that if you say you lose 2 games early in a year, you have a quarterback injury at some point. I love that there's a better chance that the best team at the end of the year, that even if they weren't the best team all year, can get there, and it gives us a more legitimate champion, I think. If Ohio State would not have been in the playoff. And so there's an argument that...
But it's just weird that ESPN was calling that game David versus Goliath, and Notre Dame was involved, and we're considering Notre Dame some sort of David. It's just... I just think it's weird that one of the teams is going to get there. It's going to be an Ohio State vibe where they spend $20-25 million, and it will just, will the game be an 8.5-point spread every time? Hopeless Fanatic next. Why does it seem like Ben Johnson is doing his best Dan Campbell impression since joining the Bears? Does it make more sense to hire from outside or within for both coordinators? When will the pain from Saturday go away? Never.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be until at least the season starts or we win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'll still come back and go, yeah, but that game against Washington.
Winning the Super Bowl would do it.
Oh,
that's
yeah, 1,000%.
But until then, there will be that.
And I think Nick Baumgardner mentioned it, hiring from within, at least for the offensive coordinator position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they trust their guys there. So
yeah, no, and look, I think Ben Johnson is, we talked about this earlier, I think Ben Johnson is doing a Dan Campbell impression, but that's partly because it's what he knows as a head coach. It's the successful head coach he's been around.
But Dan Campbell's, like you said, Dan Campbell's really good at it, and it's not a bad guy to emulate.
Correct.
Correct. Steve Whitico, are there any professional sports teams that we are allowed to hate? Since we're not allowed to hate on Ben for going to a city that at one point chanted Detroit sucks when they weren't even playing us.
You can hate whoever you want to hate. I don't have a problem hating the Chicago Bears if you're a Lions fan. You should
but I hate Ben Johnson now.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't wish any ill will towards him or his family, anything crazy. But I just see his face, and I see a little smug ass, and then I can't wait to kick the Bears' ass.
But
I'm not going to lie to you.
I like Detroit sports, but as a city, I much prefer Chicago. Love Chicago as a city. My wife lived there. I lived there for a while. It's just a better place to be. Now, no offense, Detroit, but Chicago's a better place to be. Detroit sports.
None taken.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So take that.
Next one from Steve. Why should a Fulham fan continue to buy donuts from a Chelsea fan?
Because Groovy Donuts are that good. And Andrew Gauthier may be a Chelsea fan. But the other thing is, no offense to Fulham, but you're a mid-table club, so you're not going to get anywhere anyway. Are you going to deprive yourself the joy of a Groovy Donut?
Soccer smack talk is so ass.
Yeah.
It really is. Club. G.E. Miller, what games do the Spartans lose the rest of the way?
I have a feeling they lose at Maryland. They lose. The matchup with Michigan's interesting. I don't know if that might be one that works in their favor. I think they lose at Illinois, they lose at Maryland, and they lose one other game, and it'll be a home game.
Kurt Wisniewski, hey Rube,
I said 16-4 before, so I guess I'm wrong. So they lose two other games, but I don't know what they are. I think there's a game at home they lose.
Kurt Wisniewski, hey Rube, does Izzo know that Joe is smarter than the other Joe? And from G.E. Miller, please tell me Jason has the Joe, I thought you were smarter than that drop. Oh, right. Izzo.
You know what this is from?
Yeah, yeah.
We'll work on this, man.
It was in the presser, right? He called you Joe.
He called me Joe. Yeah, and then he called later, and you could tell it wasn't apologizing for it. He just wanted to chat through his feelings.
Graham.
Yeah,
I really did. He called it up like you would be that butthurt.
No, I don't think he called for that reason. He didn't call for that reason. But he did joke when I picked up the phone. He called me Joe again, just to like hammer the point home. And in some ways it's a compliment because Joe was a force on the beat for a long time and was somebody that Izzo respected and had his battles with or whatever. So I won't entirely take offense to the Joe comment.
Kurt Wisniewski, why are some Lions fans being so down on Ben Johnson? I feel like he's going to give the Bears the best shot.
Well, those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. Like he could give the Bears the best shot, and that could also be
one of the reasons why.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
he does give them the best shot. I wanted them to hire fucking Mike McCarthy, right? That's why Ryan Rockwell, on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about the next Lions season, knowing that both offensive and defensive coordinators will be new hires? For just that alone, about a 4.
Oh, it is that high for you? Okay.
4 out of 10?
Yeah.
I don't think that's high.
Okay.
Right? That means I'm not really worried.
I would put like a 1. Oh. Very low.
Oh.
Because I just think,
I'm always worried about everything, though. So,
okay,
you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like I had to put a 4 on it. I can't just, be cold-blooded.
I
believed Mike Florio. You know what I mean? Like, I believed it was down between the Raiders and coming back to the Lions. So, I'm just irrational. So, I have to say 4. Suburban Spartan Dad, whose departure will impact the Lions the most? Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn? And which of the two coaches will have a better record in year 1?
Well, it was
Jets.
Jets with that defense.
Record.
Yeah, and no quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron Glenn is a natural leader.
Yeah, you're really down on Ben. So it was interesting because Nick Baumgardner clearly thought the defense was the area that to be most concerned about, just because. I hadn't heard it quite in those terms, but just how much Dan Campbell's been involved in putting together this offense. Yeah. And so that's probably the best way to put it. It's also the area where, like, offensively, even before the injuries defensively, the offense was their strength, right? That just from a talent standpoint, pound for pound, offense is phenomenal. Better record in year 1, I would actually take the Bears in this, if in all honesty. And it's just
of course you would.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Ghost of George Perlis, is there a reason that makes sense why the Lions put in Bridgewater instead of Hooker? And how many games will the Lions win next year? Oh, yeah, we're waiting for me?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I got to say, I was shocked when I saw Teddy Bridgewater, too. Like I said, I came out of the bathroom after Goff got rocked.
Yeah.
And Jordan was looking at me with, like, he was just pale. I'm like, oh, shit. And then I looked up and I see I'm like, what? So then my mind is just racing. I'm like, well, why isn't Hooker coming in? I mean, I thought Teddy was coming back just for like a emergency thing, being a good guy in the locker room. So that's a great question. I don't know if anybody asked Dan or Brad Holmes about that in their end of the season pressers.
If you're Hooker, that's got to be a shitty feeling. It's like, geez, I'm not even. They brought a guy off the high school football.
Was he not ready? Like, I know.
Yeah.
It's just, that is a weird question. How many games? I mean, double digit. I think that we win 12 games next year, even with that crazy schedule.
It is a tough schedule. But, yeah, I agree. I think they're going to be really good.
But I think like Nick Baumgardner said earlier about Brad Holmes making sure that defense, we have a little bit more depth, right, and not have those injuries where one guy, 2 guys goes out and we're just devastated by it. I think even with that schedule next year, I think we could win 12 games.
And I also, it'll be interesting to see in the division, and the division's tough, and you want to win the division, but in Green Bay, actually, when I look at next year, I know Green Bay kind of finished with a whimper. Like, I don't know that Minnesota is going to be, they're going to be playing with a younger quarterback. I don't know that Minnesota is going to be the type of team they were this year either. But I think, again, lots of people always doubt Minnesota, and it looks stupid.
Ghost of George Perlis. What is the ceiling on MSU hockey, Natty?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's college hockey. They won it in 2007, and they weren't close to the best team, and they were really good. But, like, if you get in the dance in college hockey, you've got a chance. It's a single elimination first 2 rounds, which is effing stupid. The problem is you can be the best team in college hockey, and your floor is losing in the first round easier than other sports because it's hockey, and it's stupid. And they have hockey's not stupid, but it's stupid they have a single elimination in round 1. But, yeah, this team is – and, again, they play Minnesota this weekend. You're talking numbers 2 versus 3. If you were able to win 2 games, it really puts you in a great spot to be a number 1 seed and the pairwise going forward. But absolutely, MSU is I think already proven that they have a chance to win it all this year.
Ryan Rockwell, Hondo is from Langsburg. That explains so much. Granted, I grew up there too.
I like Langsburg.
As long as you don't talk to anybody, Langsburg's right around from us. Yeah, I like going there.
So is Langsburg, when you're living Ovid, like the big city people go to?
No, it's Owasso.
Oh, Owasso.
Owasso has a big city feel for us, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Langsburg is just something you go to someone's house or there's a bar or golf course. Jarrett, if Illinois is so talented, why have they lost 5 games already?
Well, they were missing KJ, their talented player, for one of the games, and they're relying on a new roster and more freshmen, so that's going to happen. They lost by 1 on neutral court to Louisville, which is not a good loss. They lost badly. They've lost some games that they shouldn't have lost. There's no question, and that's what makes you can say the ceiling of Illinois is higher than anybody's, and maybe it is, but the floor is lower than Michigan State, and they have not played with the consistency that MSU has. On the road, and so it's partly youth that they're relying on young players. They're relying on a lot of roster turnover.
Jarrett, next, would you take Auburn or the Field to win the Natty?
The Field, 100%.
Yeah, unless you tell me what odds what price I'm getting on Auburn.
Yeah,
but why wouldn't you take the Field? Suburban Man of Leisure. Remember last week when a handful of us were dick riding Michigan basketball? Then they lost to Minnesota. That was fun.
By the way, I was just looking up.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
I was on Illinois' 1998 schedule. So some of those losses may have not been correct. I apologize. But they lost to Northwestern, and Tennessee's really good. Alabama on the semi-away game. They were missing for USC. They were missing their top player. So I take back some of the stuff I said. Not all of it, but apologies. Sorry.
No, Josh Minsley, for as much as you dump on the fall of X, have you read the book Breaking Twitter? If not, highly recommend it.
I have not. Maybe I'll look at it.
Did they make a documentary out of it yet? Because instead of reading a book, I'd rather watch it. Josh Minsley, where is our couch 3 takes on how Sissoko and Hogard are doing on their new teams this year? Leaving MSU was good for us. How's it going for them?
They're the players you thought they were. The stats are very similar.
Dude, what is AJ doing? I haven't even looked.
His shooting's a little bit down, but he's averaging like 10.5 points and then some assists. And he's AJ Hogard. He's the player he was at MSU.
How much is he getting? $1.5 million?
I don't know if it's that much, but he's doing. I would say it's probably. If I venture a guess, I would say it's in the 800 range.
All right.
Okay.
Richard Kane Graham, when you say something like understanding the scouting report, does MSU provide you with a scouting report, or are you just doing your own scouting report, or is there an online resource for scouting reports by a third party?
No, that's just me, the scouting report.
If so, is it accessible to non-journos?
Yeah, no. And I'm very like with Bowling Green, Todd Simon gave me their actual scouting report that he and Tum Tum Nairn had put together, but that is not something that's usually available.
Richard Kane, how much would it take to fully fund the Lansing Promise?
I don't know exactly right now based on enrollment, but it's about a $10 million check annually in Kalamazoo, which is now a slightly bigger school district than Lansing is. So $10 million check, which you could figure out if you wanted to do something that just paid out in perpetuity. Have
we talked to the Michigan Lottery Commission about that? They give so much to schools, right?
But just Lansing is what we're talking about.
Billions of dollars to schools since 1972.
It's another reason I hate the Commanders. Magic putting his money into that shit. Fuck.
Fart Soup. The other day, Couch was saying House of Horrors, but it came out House of Whores. Care to elaborate on what a House of Horrors is? Speaking of House of Horrors, what is going up at the hot house, going on at the hot house on the north side? Hot tub rentals, my ass. I hear Fred Human visits often.
Wow. I mean, I felt all of Fred Human.
It is wild. The hot house has been around for like
long time.
A long time.
Is
like
it
I
still
knew
open,
when I worked
though?
at Channel 10, we were like talking about the hot house, and it's still.
Is it still open? I don't know if it's still open.
I think it's still open.
Is it?
I think so.
It's not far from where I play basketball on Sunday morning, so I drive by it. I don't know.
Stop by and get a dip, dude. It's a legit place. I mean,
Is
what?
it?
You just want a tub?
I thought it was like a hotel place that you. I didn't know it was a.
Why would you need a hotel when you're just stopping by for a nice little quick tub?
Is that
with a wife or a lady friend? Or
I don't think I'm taking Elizabeth to the hot house on North Larch.
Can you at least ask her, like, bring it up in a serious face? Hey, I was thinking Friday night. You want to go to the hot house? Just to see.
I'll be interested if she knows what the house is. I will ask to see if she actually knows.
Let's call her right now.
Yeah, House of Horrors is just a place where everything goes wrong. Yeah.
So the hot house, Fart Soup,
or it's scary. Yeah.
Or a Hawaii spa.
Yeah.
Why the sweet fuck do I need to read some amateur hour fiction bullshit story every time I look up a recipe online? No, Barbara, I could give two shits about how your vinaigrette dressing drew you and your long-lost childhood friend closer together after her third miscarriage. Just give me the damn dressing recipe.
Is this what happens when you Google stuff? I don't know. I didn't know this was an issue.
Oh, my God.
Fantastic.
Nervous bird. Last week, I would have said that there is a 0 chance a sitting POTUS would be a show listener. After hearing the take the roof off Ford Field idea, I can only assume that the Commanders will pay for it.
Yes, the Commanders are paying for that. The Ford Field is going to be domed, and I'm glad it is. Frankly, I mean, I think you are too at games, right? Yeah.
No, I mean, it could go either way. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't, I wouldn't go to games in terrible weather.
Yeah,
I'm just being honest. I wouldn't. John L., my question is, why do you support hate by being on X?
I'm not supporting hate. I'm being where the conversation still is to some degree. I'm trying to take it over to Blue Sky, and I think there are lots of great people still on X. I don't pay for X, and although I wouldn't be against, like, I thought if I were to go full-on Twittergram opinions, I would pay for X just so I could, like, shove it down Elon's throat that he had to, like, promote my account because I was paying for it. You know, I wouldn't mind paying him $8 a month.
Sure, he would care.
Right, but yeah, I'm just saying, if I really wanted to get my stuff out on X, I don't.
Dude, when I saw him do that salute thing, like, I know they said it was, like, from his heart, that stupid. I was like, why? Can he just not?
He's just really awkward.
You know what I mean?
Really
I just want to use this stupid fucking app, dude. I don't want to get in any political stuff. I just want to see everybody's thing. I'll go to Blue Sky if we have to, but can we just make a decision? I don't know. Like,
and I
don't want to get involved in any of this crap, though.
We're getting more and more listeners on Blue Sky with questions, and so there's a lot over there. And so, maybe that at some point, but there's still a lot of the discourse is still on X. There's just it's not as much on Blue Sky yet, and it's where it is.
I've tried it. I don't know. There's a lot of cat pictures and shit. And
yeah, I mean, there are lots of people I don't like. I'm not real happy with Zuckerberg right now, but I'm not off Facebook. Like that guy is kind of weird.
I hate to break it to you, but you're not going to like a lot of people.
A lot of people in ownership
in these apps and shit. It's going to get exhausting trying to figure out who you have to like and not like and. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just let me use it and get off it. Hans Jurgen, MSU players rarely take wild shots because they fear Izzo's wrath. Is this our greatest strength? I see opponents jacking up crazy threes and their coaches do nothing.
I do think accountability is one of Izzo's strengths, and it over time is helped keep guys on their toes. I think there have been times, though, where it's hurt them, that guys have been able to play into the game, and Boeheim would say that, he only needs 5-6 players. Now, he plays a zone. And he lets guys get away. Same with Craig Campy. But I don't. Izzo's way has worked for a long time, and I think the accountability piece on the court is a strength. And Cohen Carr, for example, who started to make and take a few more threes, he understands which threes he's allowed to take, and it's starting to work for him. Whereas I think if he had just left to his own device, it would have been like, I'm going to jack a few more up. Like he and Izzo had that conversation. It seems to have worked out, and I think that is a strength of the program.
Hans Jurgen, I've noticed that Fears likes to taunt the opposing fans on the road. Should Izzo put an end to this shit, or does he make it right? Or might make right?
You got to let people be themselves. No,
I love it.
Yeah.
It's a little swagger, man. Right?
He does not want fears to draw technicals, and he's got to draw that line, and there's a certain level. But you want
I'll take a tech here and there, though.
You want your point guard, you want your leader to have an edge to him.
I want him to talk.
Yep.
Hans, once football is over, I struggle at making educated bets. I don't know the other sports in our great country. Please help.
It takes a minute. Yeah, you can't just hop on to something else.
Do you like soccer, Hans?
I'm telling you.
Then Graham is your guy.
Liverpool, -2.5 this weekend. God, it's going to go badly now. I can't believe I just said that out loud.
I just can't stop thinking about this lady's vinaigrette thing, like her recipe, and she's dropping all this terrible. Like, wow, people are wild. Upper Deck Jerk Guy, what's the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you during sex?
This one's for you, Jason.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm married. I don't know how much I can get into. I mean, without getting vulgar and gross. Right? I don't want to get gross. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to get.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I got an answer
just,
for you, but
I was just going to keep the silence awkward.
Right. Like I can't. I'm not like I don't know. It's just my wife listens and shit. I don't want to. I don't.
We have a Patreon show. If we ever do that, this would be
not really. Like if I see you, I don't know. It just seems like it's a weird thing to talk about openly on here. Like right now, it's just like you can figure it out. Like there's.
Oh, I'm with you.
Yeah, there's a certain hole. And there's a certain thing that's not supposed to. Anyway, Upper Deck Jerk Guy, do you know anyone who meets the definition of a cockwomble?
All right, I am going to Google this, but I'm worried about it.
Capital cock.
I'm worried about it. Oh, God. Hold on.
Come on.
Incognito
Capital
browser
C.
up. Incognito browser.
Womble.
Okay, it's a derogatory British slang for a person, usually male, who's prone to making outrageously stupid statements or inappropriate behavior while having a very high opinion of their own wisdom and importance. Well, I mean, we all know one. So,
really,
Who? Yeah.
All right. Last one from the Jerk Guy. What a nice end of the show. What does it sound like when the doves cry?
Mm-hmm. Caw, caw. Instead of boo, boo, caw. No?
Like that, I think.
We appreciate all of you. Thanks for helping to produce our show. We appreciate Harry and Nick Baumgardner. And, of course, we appreciate our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis. Go to pureoptions.com. Download the app today. When you support our sponsors, you're supporting us. We appreciate it. And, look, our sponsors are good. We are with them because they're great partners, and they offer incredible product. Front 43 and Cask & Company as well. Firekeepers, iCasino and Sportsbook. And Groovy Donuts. Like, nobody brings you joy like Groovy Donuts. We'll be back on Monday. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.